Hello, sports fans, and welcome to another episode of Sports Kings Radio. This is another edition of our NFL chat. We've been doing this. This is our fourth consecutive week here, and we're going to talk about what else but the Super Bowl. Biggest game of the year for a lot of people in sports in general, definitely as far as football goes. And we're going to talk a few great topics here tonight leading into the game. With me is David, who's just informed us all he's been here every week. Shout out to David. You can find him. He's our site manager over at Reading Between the Seams at sportskings.com. David, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me on your football show, and looking forward to starting some baseball shows up here in a few weeks. We're not there yet. Today's all about the Super Bowl.
He tries to act coy like he doesn't know his way around football talk. Also with us is Brett, and he's our manager over at Down and Distance, which is the football branch of Sports-Kings. Brett, how's it going?
Great. I think am I the only one here representing Down and Distance? Might be the only football one here.
You are the only one from Down and Distance tonight.
No, Austin, I guess I'll hold down the fort for us.
And last but not least is Michael. Some of you guys that have been watching the shows might recognize Michael. He does our daytime show we do later in the week where we discuss general sports. I think we did basketball the first week. Michael, you can find his work over at DC Sports Kings. He's predominantly a hockey guy, but he's going to chat football with us. Michael, how's it going?
Just trying to survive the cold weather, guys. South Carolina's shutting down right now. They're calling for snow.
These guys in their South Carolina complaining about the weather when I'm sitting up here in upstate New York in the negatives.
Currently 5 degrees outside.
It was 65 yesterday, and now it's sleeting.
If the wind blows, Frosty the Snowman catches frostbite around here. So I'm Andy. In case you guys didn't get that already, you're probably sick of seeing my mug on all these shows at this point. But we're going to jump right into the Super Bowl talk, leading into the Super Bowl here. I mean, like I said before, one of the most exciting times of the year in sports. And our first topic's a big one, and that's going to be Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning in a Super Bowl again. He has a chance to add that second ring. And the question I'm going to pose to you guys is, how big is this for Peyton Manning's legacy? Obviously, another Super Bowl ring is huge for anybody's legacy, really. But for Peyton Manning in particular, how big is winning this second title, catching up to his brother Eli, who I still hear people saying is better than Peyton, which is blasphemy. But we'll kick it to you first, Dave. How big is this for Peyton Manning and his legacy?
I think it's huge. I think if you look at maybe next year, he's talking about coming back for another opportunity, but let's just say for the sake of argument, this is his last shot. I mean, to only finish with one, with all the records he set, would really be underwhelming. I mean, certainly there's guys out there who beg for one, like a Dan Marino, for instance, but certainly to finish, so many guys have one. He needs that second one. He has the team. They're pretty much the favorites. They are the point favorites coming into this game. And if he loses this one, just like he lost the other one to New Orleans on that big interception, which turned the whole thing, he'll always be that guy that was a great regular season, great even early in the postseason, but not the guy that could finish it, like even his younger brother or Troy Aikman or Terry Bradshaw, or even guys that don't have the ability that I think he has. So I think this is huge. I think his whole legacy rides on this game. It might be a little bit hyperbole, but that's what I think right now.
We'll kick it right over to the main man of football, and that is Austin. Same question to you. How big is this for Peyton?
Wrong name, Austin. I'm not Austin.
Our main man.
Who is this Austin?
Wow. I'm so used to Austin. I apologize. You can just check out right now.
Well, I mean, to me,
I'm looking up stats here, to be fair.
To me, I think winning the second Super Bowl takes him from top 5 of all time into maybe discussion for best of all time, which seems crazy, but I looked up some stats on him this afternoon. He's currently second in career passing yards. He has the second most passing touchdowns. He's only 17 touchdowns away from passing Brett Favre. So if he comes back next year, he probably does that. He's second in career passing rating, third in completions per game, has 51 game-winning drives. Brady has 42, Breeze has 34, and he's 11-11 in the postseason. So that's the only mark that seems to be against him, is that he can't win in the postseason. So I think if he wins this year, it might put him into the conversation for best of all time, I guess.
And Brett Favre only has one title, right? Am I
Pardon?
not counting? Brett Favre only has the one title, right?
Yeah,
That's
I
another
looked
guy
up.
that.
I looked up some other stuff like Brett Favre's 13-11 in the postseason, 1-1 in Super Bowl. You got guys like Elway who were 14-7, and Montana was 16-7. Brady's 18-8, and Breeze is 6-5.
So, Michael, the same question to you. How you? I mean, obviously, we're at the point where everybody's saying it's huge for Peyton Manning's legacy. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously a second Super Bowl would go a long way. It would probably shut people up about Eli being better than Peyton. Stop. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But some more numbers I'm gonna throw at you, going along with you, Brett. He has more completions than Johnny Unitas, Terry Bradshaw, and Roger Staubach, well, fellow Navy guy. And all three of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. He has more passing yards than all three of those guys that are in the Hall of Fame. He has more touchdowns. He has more interceptions, or actually he has third, excuse me, in interceptions than those three guys that are in the Hall of Fame. The only reason those guys beat him in the categories, Super Bowls. So obviously it's going to be a big thing. I think he's got a better team around him than some of the teams he had in Indy. A lot better defense than some of those teams that are in Indy. I'm pulling for the guy. I hope he gets his second one. I'd like to see him be it. I automatically, even right now, without that second Super Bowl, I still think he's top 3.
See, for me, and my point kind of is to the point where it's a team sport. Football, I mean, above other things, I understand when you start to talk about the NBA that championships seem to mean a lot more because it's 5-on-5. You have less guys on the roster. A superstar can affect the game more. I think in the NFL, while a quarterback has a great chance to affect the outcome of games, there's just a lot more that goes into it. And we talked about, I think David mentioned Dan Marino. And Dan Marino's a big one. I mean, the guy never won, and he's still revered as one of the better quarterbacks of all time. The thing with me is I think this is huge for Peyton Manning's legacy. Michael, you mentioned the Hall of Famers, and I think it's basically a foregone conclusion at this point that Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer.
No question.
As far as taking on things like Tom Brady, because that's what people are going to talk about. Who is the better quarterback of this, this era, Brady or Manning? I think Manning needs to kind of to catch up to Brady a little bit.
Yep.
But for the love of God, Eli Manning, like Eli has done some great things. Like he does the dirty work, he's gotten the job done. But I think the comparisons between him and his older brother are ridiculous. We're going to let you, Brett, just because I screwed up who you were. I knew who you were. I could see your face.
I wanted to interrupt anyways because you brought up Brady, and I looked up a little bit about Brady as well. I mean, when I'm comparing the two of them, they're really close, and it's got to be because Brady has won 3 Super Bowls to Manning's 1. But Brady has less touchdowns in his career. He has almost 16,000 less passing yards. His numbers are worse than Manning's. So if you're going just stats, it's got to be Manning. But if you're going complete game, postseason and Super Bowl, that's where Brady argument comes in. So I think if Manning can win this one, puts him at 2-1 in Super Bowls, that's a little better number than 1-1.
And that's a little bit what I was speaking to. Is I feel like he's kind of making up ground a little bit with a Super Bowl win this year. So let's jump right into the next thing, which is our other quarterback, Russell Young Gun Wilson, as I've so dubbed him right this minute. We talked a little bit the first week. Brett, you weren't here, although Austin was. And Michael, you weren't here either. David, you were here. We kind of had a little bit of a different look that week. But we talked the new breed type quarterbacks, and by new breed I mean the younger guys in this new mold, the RG3s, Andrew Luck, Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton, that type of player. And then Russell Wilson is obviously in that pot, in that mixture. So how big is this for Russell Wilson if he goes ahead and wins a Super Bowl right now? Like, how big of an advantage does that give him over the rest of the class, so to speak? And we'll go right to you first, Brett, because I'm still making up for calling you Austin.
I actually thought about this all day because I knew we were going to talk about it. It's difficult to me because I know it was on a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about key factors in the AFC and NFC championships. And to me, it was the defense and the run game of Seattle. So for me, it's kind of like, if he wins, it depends on. I got to see what he does. If he wins and he puts in a dominating performance, then that might put him above the rest because he's been there, he's done it, he's won it before. But if they win and it's because of their defense, it's kind of like, well, he won, but I hate to use the word game manager, but was he a game manager? Did he just go out there and throw a touchdown, no interceptions, maybe 150 yards, or did he go out there and dominate the game and help Seattle win the game? So I guess I'll have to see after the Super Bowl. I guess it depends on the performance he puts out there.
Let's kick this right to you, David.
Yeah, I don't see him being the type of guy. I mean, we just had a conversation about guys like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees and these guys that are going to throw, that are going to set records, and Brett Favre. They're just going to set all the records, the touchdowns. He's not that guy. He's a guy, and he's the same size as Drew Brees, so it's not a size thing. It's just he is a game manager. He can win a Super Bowl. There's been a ton of quarterbacks win the Super Bowl as game managers and win multiple Super Bowls as game managers. And to me, he'll fit more in that mold. But if you take away that defense and you take away the running of Marshawn Lynch, I don't see him being the type of guy that's going to go out and just win a Super Bowl by himself, to put a team on his back like you've seen Tom Brady do without that much offensive talent around. I mean, he's had talent, but not the big-time talent, or some guys like Terry Bradshaw or some of the others that had the Lynn Swan, Franco Harris's. So he's in the right spot at the right time, and he's done everything possible to win the Super Bowl, and we'll see how he performs. But he's not going to be in the same conversation as we had the last segment.
So straight from Cam Newton country, we have Michael Krauser. Michael, how do you feel about this?
Oh, God. Like Brett, I've been thinking about this a while. And like Brett, I'm skeptical. I really am a skeptic of the whole new breed zone read type quarterback. I mean, okay, let's look at RG3 being, writing for the DC guys. That's well documented. He's got no offensive line. He's got no defense, and yet they return their defensive coordinator. So there's strike one. Let's see, who else has not been that successful? Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck's a great quarterback. Obviously, he has to follow the shoes of Peyton Manning. Where's their defense? They're like in the bottom 10 in rush defense. They got shredded by New England.
He kind of laid an egg a little bit there, too.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But moving on, look at guys like Colin Kaepernick, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton. All three of those guys are on teams with great defenses. All three of them probably ranked in the top 3 in the NFL this year in defense. I'm still a skeptic. If Russell Wilson wins it, great, good for him. God bless the guy from North Carolina State, but I don't
Wisconsin.
know. I'm going to be scared. Yeah. He went to North Carolina State too. He went to there first. But like I said, I'm still going to be skeptical until somebody comes out. I was skeptical of Cam Newton. Cam Newton's my boy, but no.
I'm still skeptical of Cam Newton.
Me too some days.
I said this last year, I said this at the beginning of this year when they were talking about Russell Wilson. Actually, it was Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, Andrew Luck, and RG3. ESPN ranked them, and Russell Wilson came out on top. And I believe it was Kaepernick and Luck tied for second, and then RG3 was, I guess it would technically be third, but I saw it as last because he was the last one mentioned. The thing that gets me about Russell Wilson, while I think he has some, great attributes and things he lends to that team, is the fact that when you think of Seattle, you think of the defense, and you think of Marshawn Lynch and that heavy pounding ground, that running game. And you even think of the 12th man sometimes before you even hear Russell Wilson's name mentioned. So I feel like while he's done some great things, to piggyback off of what Brett said, is he has to do a really good job in this Super Bowl. I think if he throws for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, he rushes a touchdown, throws a couple more, I feel like that's all people are going to be talking about is how good Russell Wilson was, how much better he is than Colin Kaepernick and Cam Newton and Andrew Luck and RG3. And RG3 I almost feel like is kind of out of this discussion at this point because nobody's seen him since last season.
And you didn't even bring up Andy Dalton. Wow.
Who? I don't even know who that is.
Exactly.
But I feel like, I feel like right now if it was the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl, all we'd be talking about alongside Peyton Manning is Colin Kaepernick because he did do the extra things that we haven't really seen from Russell Wilson thus far in the playoffs. So let me just one more small detail to this, Brett, and you can answer that question just 1 second.
I got something to add. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Okay. I was just thinking of comparisons, and I mean it's weird because they run different styles of offense. But to me, I see Russell Wilson as Alex Smith this year. Alex Smith in Kansas City got off to a great start, and it was because their defense. It was because Jamal Charles, and all he had to do was go out and not make mistakes. And I feel like that's all Russell Wilson has to do is go out, not make mistakes, don't turn the ball over, complete a few passes, get some yards, and then let the rest of the team do their job. And that's how I feel, at least with the playoffs. That's what he's been doing.
So the
I
question
don't know how
to
you
end
feel about that.
the question to end this topic right here, I think, would be: do you think that Russell Wilson is the better quarterback of all those quarterbacks we mentioned right now? Brett.
In the terms of Luck, RG3, Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick, Russell Wilson, I'm going to go with Andrew Luck. I mean,
Yes.
his stats are up there the best, I think. And I think if he had Seattle's defense and Marshawn Lynch, it would be over. I would pick him over the Broncos right now.
David, same question to you.
Yeah, I'd go Luck 1, Kaepernick 2, Wilson 3, RG whoever 4.
What about
Cam?
Cam? Where's Cam?
Oh, Cam. Cam would be probably before RG3, but not higher.
So Cam 4, RG3 5. Michael, to you.
Wow. Well, I don't mean to be biased or anything. No, I'm not really gonna be. I'd have to put Andrew Luck.
I was gonna mute you.
Over. I'd even have to put Andrew Luck over Colin Kaepernick and Cam Newton. I mean, he seems to be more balanced. He can run. He can throw. If Reggie Wayne would have been there the whole entire season, I got a feeling that maybe the playoffs would have been a little bit different. We may be talking about Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson. I mean, I'm not saying that it could have happened, but I'd have to put Andrew Luck as number 1.
And I think
Russell
I would
Wilson
go with.
shows me otherwise.
I would go with Andrew Luck as well. I just think the skill set's there. That the feel that he's more of the pocket first type of guy, and he's not having to control many aspects with his legs. Although, as Michael pointed out, he can. I feel like that's sustainable. That's going to last longer in this league. So let's jump right into this.
But Cam's number 2.
Yeah, Luck beat Kaepernick and he beat Wilson this year head-to-head. Just one extra thing.
And that's a great tidbit. See, you're taking right over for Shane when he's not here. Shane's going to have to sit in the corner next week.
That's right.
So let's jump into this next one. We just talked a little bit about Seattle's defense. This is the great thing about the Super Bowl is it's going to be the best defense in Seattle versus the best offense in Denver. And, I mean, that's not something you see too terribly often. I mean, what do you guys make of this? Defense or offense? What's the better weapon as it pertains to this particular matchup? Michael, let's start with you.
Just because of the way that, excuse me, this whole thing is setting up, I'm going to have to go with Denver's offense over the Legion of Boom. And I mainly do that because Peyton Manning in general has the experience in a Super Bowl. He's played in bigger games. Not a single person, if I'm not mistaken, the stat was correct, not a single person on the Seattle Seahawks team has played anywhere close to a Super Bowl. So, you give experience there. And I'm kind of wondering if Peyton Manning is just going to go in and just carve this defense up. I don't care how physical they're going to get. He's got too many weapons. I got Peyton Manning. I picked the Broncos offense on this one.
So, and I'm glad Michael kind of worded that at the beginning the way he did, because I was really trying to throw it out there to make sure that you guys are understanding that I mean for this exact game. I'm not talking about defense versus offense in general. For this game, Seattle's defense, Denver's offense. Brett.
You know what? With what you just said, though, I did look, and when the top-ranked defense met the top-ranked offense, and it's happened in 4 Super Bowls, the defense has won 3 out of the 4 Super Bowls.
I had that too. You stole it from me.
But with that said, I don't think Seattle's defense is like Tampa Bay's defense, Baltimore's defense when they won it. They're good, but when you look at Denver's offense, the points and the yards they put up compared to the second-place teams in the NFL this year, it's just ridiculous. I mean, they're scoring 10.1 more points per game than the second-place team, which I think is Chicago, and they're averaging 32 more yards or 340 total passing yards. Their offense is just ridiculous. I don't think Peyton Manning is going to have that big of a problem. He's faced tough defense this year. New England's defense isn't a slouch. He beat Kansas City twice. They're not that difficult. I think he'll have no problem with Seattle.
David, same thing to you. Denver's offense or Seattle's defense?
You guys are way off, guys. It's going to be Seattle's defense. I'm not going to spoil my Super Bowl pick just yet, but just studying.
I think you just did, sir.
Statistics.
Look at Dave going Skip Bayless on, or not Skip Bayless. What the hell's his name?
Oh yeah, that
you are trying to
guy,
be Skip Bayless.
Yeah, no,
you're Lee Corsoing us, Dave. Come on.
All right, not so fast, my friend. I mean, if you look, their defense is balanced. They have a good secondary. They have good linebackers. They really get a good pass rush without blitzing. And what you can't do with Peyton Manning is blitz him. Because if you have to blitz him, you're done. He's going to carve you up. And I just see that Seattle's defense is balanced, and they've got Richard Sherman that's a shutdown corner, and they've got the front pressure, and Peyton's going to struggle. They're not going to be in rhythm like they are, as you guys were talking, and it's going to be Seattle's defense, I think, that wins that matchup.
I think it's going to be a tough game.
Sorry, Andy, go ahead.
I think it's going to be a tough game, too. I think it's going to be a tough game for Denver in terms, but David almost swung me to the dark side on this one, and I almost wanted to say that I think the defense of Seattle is going to be too overwhelming. I think they're going to definitely give Peyton Manning and his weapons some trouble. But at the same time, as you look at the teams that were able to beat the Broncos, and there was only 3 of them this season, none of them were defensive teams. It was the Patriots, it was the Colts, who we just talked about how miserable their defense was, and it was the Chargers. And the Chargers' defense wasn't bad, actually. But
New England's defense isn't bad either. They have their ups and downs.
Yeah, they have their ups and downs. But if you look at the games too, none of them were defensive games. I mean, it was 39-33 with the Colts. It was 34-31 with the Patriots, and then the other one was 27-20. I mean, that's actually the closest thing that the Chargers put up to defense played against them all season, 20 points. But I guess my the short route to what I'm trying to say is I think that the offense with Peyton Manning and the Broncos is going to be the dominant trait in that game.
And Dave brought up a great point about the pass rush of Seattle. That's going to be a huge thing, because are you going to be able to put enough pressure on Peyton Manning without blitzing, without him being able to carve you up? You know, where's the balance going to be? I think that's going to be that could be an X factor right there.
Yeah, that'll go either way, however that turns out. My anticipation is that Seattle can do it, but if they can't, then all bets are off, because then Peyton will have the time and do the things that he's always done and did this entire season to break all the records.
So let's run right into our last topic here. I guess it would be the second to the last topic. Our last topic is going to be our predictions, our picks for the game. The final actual topic is going to be, this year we're playing in, I don't want to say NYC. Too many people are throwing around NYC. It's actually New Jersey, but they're dubbing it the NYC and New Jersey Super Bowl this year here. And this is going to be, the weather's going to play a factor more than likely. I mean, the weather's not, like I said, I alluded to earlier, I live in New York. I'm 6 hours away, but the weather's been sub-zero here lately, so we don't see this very often. And we talked about the defense and the offense just a second ago. Peyton Manning doesn't typically play great football in cold weather. We don't see the Super Bowl in cold weather. And it almost feels like this is a game tailor-made for a defense, and that's what Seattle has. What do you think, Michael, that the weather is going to do to this game? Besides make it cold.
Oh, come on. Why you got to keep taking my answers? Anyway,
Sorry.
I'm not saying that it could or may not have some sort of psychological, edge against Peyton Manning, because, he's obviously not had success in the cold weather. But Russell Wilson, as of week 12 of the NFL, he has not played a game in sub-zero temperatures in the NFL, nor in the playoffs. However, he does have experience that with a year in Wisconsin. So that could also be that could have something to do with it. But I think, not again with Dave, not to spoil my Super Bowl pick. I think that this is where Peyton Manning kind of gets that monkey off of his back and carries his team, quote unquote.
So David, how about you? How do you feel the weather is going to kind of twist and determine this game a little bit?
I think because the precipitation is, as far as last I heard, it's gone back and forth, isn't in the forecast. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. I mean, Peyton Manning's played one Super Bowl in Miami that was just miserable with rain and everything else, and so you're talking about, well, which would you rather play in, wet ball, sloppy conditioning on the field, or crisp, cold, I think most players would pick the crisp and cold. So I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. Cold typically favors the defense. You get to the point where the defense is just control and the offenses don't get comfortable in that type of weather. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a factor. I think as long as the wind stays under control, that we'll see the better team win without the conditions playing into it.
And we'll keep it right going straight to you, Brett.
You know, yeah, Dave actually touched on something. When you give me all day to look up stuff, that's all I do is look up stats. But that Colts Super Bowl against the Bears was actually the wettest Super Bowl they ever featured, and they still scored 46 points. So, I mean, if it's raining, they still scored 46 points. That's plenty of points. In fact, the Super Bowl that was the warmest was 84 degrees. I think it was Super Bowl VII, and it's also the lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time. So I don't buy the cold weather. I don't think it's going to affect it too much. I mean, unless it's like 40-mile-per-hour winds, I could see that affecting the passing. But it's football. It's cold weather. Other sports play outside. Why can't the Super Bowl do it? Why can't
the
New
World
York do it?
Series is played in temperatures that are in the 30s and 40s. So.
In Detroit, it was freezing a couple years ago when they played in Boston. They were in their winter hats and gloves out there, and they still managed to do it.
Right.
I just don't buy it. I mean, if that's your argument, then play all the playoffs inside. Play every home game inside. If you don't want weather to mess with the game, then play inside every game because
play basketball.
That's just a bad.
That's right.
Pretty much. Or hockey.
Brett, you brought up kind of something that made me think of something that's relevant to this. That Super Bowl you talked about against the Bears being the wettest Super Bowl. It was also so now you're talking weather conditions. And that was a pretty good defense they faced there. So that kind of reminds me of this trend a little bit, too, with this Super Bowl. The inclement weather and a pretty good defense. I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to compare, but, I mean, how do you guys feel about that Bears defense compared to this Seahawks defense? Let's go to you, David.
No,
you weren't prepared for this question.
Absolutely not.
Curveball.
But the Seahawks defense is of course entirely better. I mean, it's not even a comparison. The Seahawks are used to playing in cold weather, wet. They'll play however. So that's.
It doesn't rain in Seattle.
No, not at all.
I think the biggest difference between the two of them is the secondary of Seattle is a lot better than that Bears secondary was. I mean, the linebacking core in Chicago might have been better that year with Urlacher, but the Seahawks secondary with Browner and Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman, that's leaps and bounds better than Chicago, so that should play a big factor.
All right, so let's just jump right into the last thing, and that's going to be our picks for the Super Bowl. It's kind of hard. It's almost like sad. I'm shedding tears here a little bit. I don't want the season to end all of a sudden. But I kind of do.
Still got the draft, Andy. Come on.
Well, I write basketball, so I kind of was hoping the season would end. So I.
Oh no, football should never end. Play year round.
I mean, I like football, but I was kind of hoping.
Bring back the USFL.
But so let's jump right into our scores here. Let's do we'll do our picks and give a score. I know a lot of people don't usually like to do the scores because it's anybody's guess, but I think it makes it fun. We'll go to you first, David. Who do you have winning, and what's the score going to be?
I went into the analysis of this pick with a uncertainty that I was going into it thinking that the Broncos are going to win. I looked on paper. I said, well, you look at Peyton Manning, the way he performs, as everybody else is, about 2 to 3 point favorite. But the more I looked at it, the more I see the Seahawks as the better team, and there's a couple reasons why. The Broncos haven't played a defense like this in the playoffs. And yet they're only averaging, 25 points, I think, in the first 2 playoff games. So are they going to score more than 25 points? I'd be surprised. And then you look at the Seahawks, they've scored in the low 20s in their games against really top-notch defenses like the 49ers and like the Saints. And they're going to play a team that's not that good on defense. So what's I think is going to happen is that the Seahawks are going to score in the upper 20s, about 28. I see Denver at about 20. I see the Seahawks taking control of Peyton Manning, keeping them under control, and so it's going to be the Seahawks 28-20.
All right, right to you, Brett.
Well, I'm going with the Broncos. I mean, I've been trying to think about the score the whole time, I guess I'll go 31-24. I think it's going to be close. I understand what David's saying, that the Broncos haven't played a tough defense. They haven't scored a lot. But Seattle hasn't played an offense like Denver's. San Francisco is pretty good. Drew Brees is pretty good. But the weapons are there in Denver, and I think you give Manning 2 weeks to prepare against the Seahawks, and I think he's going to get him. So I think he gets his second Super Bowl. And I think if Manning comes back, I know it's a little early. We're not talking about preseason favorites, but this could be a matchup we see again next year if Manning comes back.
I agree with that. Michael, your pick and the score.
Alrighty, so I've been thinking about the whole thing. I was even asking customers that came through my grocery line today who you got, blah, blah, blah. A lot of them are Cowboys fans, so they didn't really, they've been thinking about this for a while.
Tony Romo's going to throw 4 touchdowns.
Anyways, it all depends really on if the Broncos can get past the physicality of the man coverage of the Seahawks defense, which I think they will. They have Seattle has to be able to stop not only Demaryius Thomas but Julius Thomas, Sean Moreno, Wes Welker. There's weapons galore, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm piggybacking off of Brett and Dave, but I've got Denver scoring 31 points, and I've got Seattle coming up just short, 31-21 Denver, and I'm going to say Peyton Manning throws at least 3 touchdowns and 300 yards.
So you said 31-21? I didn't hear the
31-21 Denver.
Okay.
Peyton Manning throws 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards.
All right, and this is going to sound real bad. I really want to say before I get into this, I went with Denver as well over Seattle. And I'm going to say wholeheartedly that I really want Seattle to win. Marshawn Lynch has become my favorite player not wearing a Lions jersey.
Can't tell at all.
And David, you almost sold me on Seattle, but I'm sticking with Denver. And I want everybody to realize that I already had this written down prior to the show, that I think Denver's going to win 30-24. So my score was almost identical to Brett's. He had 31-24. Michael had 31-21. But I'm 30-24. I think Denver's going to win. David, you're voted off the island.
I think we all
By
have
the
the
way,
over.
Slink, goodbye.
But you
That's
get
right.
Skittles as a parting gift.
I'll be back here next week when Seattle wins, and all you people better be here, and we'll have another conversation about this.
I think Michael hit on it the best. They just have too many weapons.
Yeah, too many. And actually,
When I look at it, it's like, how are you going to stop Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, Sean Moreno, Wes Welker, Eric Decker?
that's backwards and probably looks like it's in Chinese, but it says too many weapons underneath my score. I mean, that's what I had to get to.
I actually had a whole thing written down about this. It was great.
Richard Sherman can't cover 3 guys.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. You know that.
The big thing about the big thing that I see as the real X factor for both teams is, like I said, the Broncos. How are they going to counteract that press coverage in man-to-man I'm getting tongue-tied here, that the Seahawks run. For the Seahawks, though, how is that defense going to react to the mesh play with the pick with Wes Welker that he's been running since his days at Texas Tech under Mike Leach? That and not to, go back a couple weeks, but I'm really surprised that Danny Amendola didn't let Bill Belichick know, hey, there's going to be some pick plays. They like to run that mesh route. We did it at Texas Tech. I was Wes Welker's replacement there. I'm Wes Welker's replacement here. I should have seen this coming. Why didn't he warn him about that?
So let's real quick before we wrap this up. Let's give everybody like 30 seconds to do a final thought since we're rolling into the Super Bowl. Brett, I think you were just starting to talk there. I believe that was you. So let's go with you. 30 seconds, final thought.
All right. I mean, it was going to be something stupid anyway. So I was going to say, if Seattle wins, I hope Richard Sherman has an epic rant and that we can talk about for the rest of the offseason. I hope he wins the MVP and then stands up there on the platform with his MVP saying, "Who's the best corner now? Michael Crabtree, what? Michael Crabtree, what?" So it's a great game. I'm excited. Number one defense, number one offense. How could you not want it as an NFL fan?
Michael, let's go to you real quick. 30 seconds.
All right, you guys may be excited about the game. I'm more excited, and I don't care. I'm more excited about the Uncle Jesse reuniting with Danny Tanner and Joey, I don't care, man. Dave Coulier back on television. I am stoked for that commercial. I am recording that. That is going to be the greatest Super Bowl commercial of all time. I'm calling it.
David, that leaves you. Your final thought heading into the Super Bowl.
The most overrated things about the Super Bowl are the commercials and the halftime show. Let's talk football, guys. We're talking number one against number one. Both teams had home field advantage throughout the playoffs, so now they're going to have to go away from home. You got Peyton Manning, who's probably the popular choice, the good guy. You got Richard Sherman, who did everything he could to paint himself as the bad guy. One-on-one, let's go. Let's get it on Sunday. Can't wait to watch it happen.
And I'm actually going to sound real generic here, too. I was talking to this woman I work with earlier, and she said to me, "Did you get the Super Bowl off?" And I said, "Of course I got the Super Bowl off." And she went on this tangent about how she tried to get it off. And I said, "Well, I didn't even think you watched football that much." And she said, "No, but I got to record it because I got to see the commercials." Stop watching the Super Bowl for the commercials. I know my hair looks terrible. On that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Head on over to www.sports-kings.com. You can check out our work there. We have our sister sites, our sub-sites for baseball, that's Reading Between the Seams. For basketball, that's Pass the Pill. For hockey, that's Around the Rink. For Washington, D.C. sports, that's DCSK. For New York sports, that is SKNY. And last but not least, if you want to see football, you want to read football, you want to interact with the guys, that's Down and Distance. And we'll see you guys next week when David gets to rant at us because this Seahawks won. We're out.